The rain had been falling since dusk, tapping relentlessly against the narrow windows of the apartment, as if trying to force its way inside. The living room was dim, lit by a single flickering lamp that cast long, uneasy shadows on the peeling walls. The space felt smaller than ever, heavy with a silence that had been growing for months. Every unpaid bill, every unspoken disappointment, every sleepless night seemed to press down on the room at once. The husband stood near the table, shoulders tense, jaw clenched. He didn't look at her when he finally spoke. "We should get a divorce." The words came out flat, stripped of emotion, as if he were stating a fact rather than ending a life they had built together. He had rehearsed this moment over and over in his head, telling himself it was necessary, that love couldn't survive under the weight of failure. To him, the marriage had become a reminder of everything he hadn't achieved. His stalled career, his mounting debts, his bruised pride. Staying felt like suffocation. Leaving felt like control. The wife sat frozen on the couch, her fingers tightening around the fabric of her sleeve. She had felt the distance growing, had noticed how conversations died quickly and how his eyes no longer softened when they met hers. But she never imagined it would end like this, so abruptly, so coldly. Her mind flooded with memories she hadn't invited. Their first tiny apartment, the nights they laughed over instant noodles, the promises whispered when they had nothing except belief in each other. She didn't cry out. She didn't argue. Her throat felt locked, her chest aching as if something vital had cracked open inside her. She simply listened, each word carving deeper into her heart. In that moment, the imbalance between them became painfully clear. He felt trapped and desperate to escape. She felt like everything she had chosen, love, sacrifice, simplicity, was being taken from her all at once, with no chance to hold on. When the argument finally dissolves into a hollow, unbearable silence, the wife's thoughts drift inward, to the secret she has been carrying alone. Beneath the loose sweater, beneath her careful stillness, a new life is growing. She is pregnant, only a few weeks along, fragile and uncertain like hope itself. She had planned to tell him soon. She had been waiting for the right moment, for a day when he came home smiling again, when the weight on his shoulders seemed lighter. In her mind, she had imagined it so clearly. His surprise, his laughter, the way his hand would rest on her stomach, as if instinctively protecting what was theirs. She believed the news might heal the cracks between them, give him something to fight for again. That belief had carried her through weeks of nausea and exhaustion, through mornings spent kneeling on the bathroom floor, trying not to retch loudly enough for him to hear. She remembers standing alone in a pharmacy aisle, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, staring at a row of prenatal vitamins. Her hands trembled as she picked up a bottle, then put it back, then picked it up again. Tears slipped down her face, unnoticed by strangers passing by. She wasn't crying from fear. She was crying because she was happy and terrified and desperately alone all at once. Now, as he talks about divorce, every word lands like a blow. He has no idea what he is walking away from. The irony is cruel and sharp. The readers know what he doesn't, and it makes his cold resolve almost unbearable to witness. The child inside her becomes a silent presence in the room, absorbing every harsh sentence, every pause filled with rejection. His emotional blindness isn't born of hatred. He isn't cruel on purpose. But that doesn't soften the damage. Because sometimes, ignorance hurts just as deeply as intent, and tonight it is quietly destroying everything she hoped to protect. In his mind, the decision makes sense. Has to. The husband replays the past few years like a list of personal failures he can't escape. The business he poured everything into collapsed quietly, without drama, leaving behind debts that seemed to grow heavier by the day. Each rejection, each overdue notice, chipped away at his confidence until he barely recognized himself. He feels small, powerless, ashamed. And shame, left to fester, turns into bitterness. He tells himself she doesn't understand what it's like to feel this useless. In his darkest moments, he convinces himself she contributes nothing, that she lives off his dwindling efforts, watching him drown without lifting a hand. This belief becomes his shield. If the marriage is the problem, then walking away isn't cruelty. It's survival. He frames the divorce as an act of self-preservation, a necessary escape from a life that constantly reminds him of what he's failed to become. What he never sees is the quiet truth running parallel to his resentment. Behind the scenes, his wife has been holding everything together with trembling hands. She has paid bills in secret, transferring money late at night so he won't notice. She has sold things she once cherished, jewelry with memories attached, personal items that can never be replaced, choosing to let them go rather than let him feel inadequate. When money was tight, she learned how to stretch impossibly small amounts, smiling through stress she never shared. She never throws her sacrifices in his face. Never reminds him she could fix everything instantly if she wanted to. She swallows her fear and pride because she believes love should be quiet, patient and loyal. To her, struggle is temporary, but dignity matters. The tension sharpens as readers understand the cruel imbalance. He sees a burden where there is devotion, weakness where there is restraint. She isn't just standing by him. She is consciously choosing hardship for the man she loves. And that choice, unrecognized and unappreciated, makes what's coming all the more tragic. The sound of paper hitting the table feels louder than it should. The divorce documents lie neatly stacked between them, stark white under the harsh light, as cold and final as a verdict. Thick paragraphs of legal language replace everything they never managed to say to each other. Dates, signatures, clauses. Each line strips their years together down to something procedural and disposable. The husband clears his throat and speaks in a calm, businesslike tone. There's no anger left in his voice, only efficiency. No property to divide. No shared assets. No complications. He wants it settled quickly, cleanly, as if speed might lessen the weight of what he's doing. To him this is closure. A necessary ending so he can breathe again. Across from him, her hands tremble as she reaches for the papers. The words blur almost immediately, ink bleeding together as tears well in her eyes. She turns each page slowly, as if delaying the inevitable might somehow change it. Her chest tightens with every sentence, every reminder that the life she fought to protect is being dismantled in front of her. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely audible. Do you really not love me anymore? The question isn't accusatory. It's fragile, desperate, clinging to the smallest possibility that this is all a mistake. He doesn't answer. He doesn't look at her. His eyes stay fixed on the table, on the papers, anywhere but her face. That silence becomes her answer, heavier than any cruel word he could have spoken. Time seems to slow, stretching unbearably. She feels each breath scrape through her lungs, each tear fall onto the page like a quiet goodbye. Hope doesn't shatter all at once. It fades, piece by piece, until all that's left is a suffocating stillness. The moment where she understands that love hasn't exploded or vanished dramatically. It has simply been allowed to die. What the husband cannot see, what he has never imagined, is the truth she has carried quietly since the day they met. The woman sitting across from him, wiping tears from divorce papers, is the only daughter of a man whose name moves governments, bends markets, and fills headlines across the world. A global trillionaire. A figure surrounded by power so immense it reshapes entire economies. She was born into a life of private jets, guarded estates, and rooms filled with people who bowed before her father's influence. From the outside it was a dream. From the inside it was isolating. Luxury replaced affection. Security replaced freedom. Every smile came with an agenda. Every relationship with expectations tied to her last name. By the time she was old enough to choose, she walked away. Not dramatically, not rebelliously, but quietly. She wanted a life where love wasn't measured in numbers or leverage. She never told her husband who she really was because she needed to know one thing: that he loved her, not her power. Past relationships had taught her a painful lesson. Wealth distorts everything it touches. Men changed once they knew. They either became submissive, greedy, or resentful. With him, she thought she had finally found something real. A man who saw her as ordinary, who laughed with her over small things, who didn't ask for more than she could give emotionally. So she hid the truth. She chose simplicity over comfort, anonymity over dominance. She convinced herself that love built without privilege would last forever. Now the contrast is brutal. A woman who could buy entire cities sits humiliated in a failing marriage, being discarded as if she were nothing. The greater her secret, the sharper the injustice feels. His ignorance isn't just painful, it's cruel in its timing. Because while he believes he is leaving behind a burden, he is unknowingly turning his back on a devotion deeper than wealth, deeper than power, and far rarer than either. The pen rests between her fingers, its weight far heavier than it should be. For a long moment she can't move. Her hand hovers above the line where her name is supposed to go, trembling as if her body itself is resisting what her mind knows must happen. Tears slip free, falling onto the paper, leaving faint, uneven marks that blur the ink beneath them. In that suspended moment, her thoughts drift not to the man sitting across from her, but to the life inside her. She thinks of the baby she hasn't yet held, the future that was supposed to be shared, the quiet dreams she built in her heart. She wonders how she will explain absence one day, how she will answer questions she herself never imagined asking alone. The grief is sharp, but beneath it lies resolve. If this door is closing, she will not beg it to stay open. Slowly, she lowers the pen and signs her name. The movement is small, almost unnoticeable, but it carries finality. There is no dramatic outburst, no last plea. Just the soft scratch of ink against paper, ending a marriage with devastating calm. The husband exhales as if a weight has been lifted from his chest. Relief flickers across his face. In his mind, this is freedom. He believes he has escaped a burden, a life that dragged him down, a future he no longer wants to face. He doesn't look at her when she sets the pen down. He doesn't hear her whisper. A quiet apology slips past her lips, fragile and broken. It isn't meant for him. It's for the child growing silently within her, for the family that will never be, for the love that couldn't survive blindness and pride. This is the moment everything changes. There is no undoing it. No second chances hidden in the silence. Suspense doesn't explode here. It settles, heavy and permanent, marking the point of no return. She walks out of the apartment quietly, carrying a small bag that holds only the bare essentials. There is no dramatic farewell, no final argument in the hallway. The door closes behind her with a soft click, and with it, the life she fought so hard to protect comes to an end. Her hope feels heavier than the bag on her shoulder, fractured but still beating stubbornly in her chest. She asks for nothing. No money. No apology. No explanation. Inside, the husband sits alone, convinced this is a clean break. The silence feels different now. Lighter, almost peaceful. He tells himself it's over, that whatever comes next will be easier without her. For the first time in months, he believes he has taken control of his life. What he doesn't see is the shift happening beyond those walls. Down the street, a black luxury car idles quietly at the corner, its presence deliberate and waiting. Phones begin to ring. Messages are sent in hushed, urgent tones. Security teams are alerted. A world she tried to leave behind recognizes her return, moving with efficiency and precision. She doesn't give instructions. She doesn't have to. Her name alone is enough. Days pass and small, unsettling things begin to happen. The overdue bills vanish from the mailbox. Collection calls stop coming. Notices that once filled him with dread disappear without explanation. Then a call arrives from a law firm he's never heard of. Polite, authoritative, and unmistakably powerful. They ask questions he doesn't understand. They mention her name in a way that feels wrong, out of place. Soon he starts seeing it too. Her name appearing in spaces it never belonged before. Financial records, business conversations, whispers among people who suddenly treat him differently. Confidence gives way to confusion. The certainty he felt after the divorce begins to crumble, replaced by an uneasy sense that something far larger than him has been set in motion. The world is shifting, and he has no idea what he's about to discover. The truth doesn't arrive gently. It crashes into his life without warning, tearing through every assumption he ever held. It starts with a headline flashing across a screen he wasn't meant to be watching. Then another. Financial reports, international news. Names spoken with a mixture of awe and fear. And then her last name. Suddenly unmistakable, suddenly everywhere. Her father's identity hits him like a physical blow. A global titan. A man whose influence reshapes economies and silences opposition. A trillionaire whose shadow stretches across continents. His mind reels as memories replay themselves in a new, horrifying light. Her calm restraint. Her refusal to argue over money. Her quiet dignity. All the moments he mistook for weakness now expose his blindness. He didn't just divorce an ordinary woman. He discarded someone extraordinary who chose him when she didn't need to. But the truth isn't finished with him yet. The final blow comes softly, cruelly, from a source he never expected. She was pregnant, weeks along. His child. His family. The realization crushes what's left of him. He calls her number again and again. No longer connects. He sends messages that go unanswered. Every door he tries is sealed shut by distance, power and consequence. She has returned to a world he can't touch, shielded by influence he can't penetrate, not out of revenge but protection. For herself. For the child he never knew existed. In the end, there is no confrontation. No dramatic reunion. Only contrast. He stands alone in the ruins of his certainty, drowning in regret that arrives far too late. And somewhere far away, she rests a hand over her stomach, surrounded by unimaginable wealth, yet changed forever. She doesn't seek revenge. She doesn't look back. She chooses silence over forgiveness, and closes the door for good.